Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome into the TDR Trade to Black podcast, the early days of summer. Yes, here they are, great weather, and hope you're enjoying, obviously, some time these next few months as we gear up again in the next couple months for the fall season and a lot of stuff on the horizon. But for now, and the reason why you want to watch today's podcast, we're going to talk about Ohio and a lot of applications that are already being approved as we inch closer for adult use going live in this market. If so, what does that mean, most importantly, for this space and some of the key players? So let's welcome in TDR co-host Anthony Varrell here on a Monday. What is the atmosphere like in Fort Lauderdale? It is game 7.
Everybody's on Edmonton, and everybody's trying to figure out where Bob is. So, I mean, if we get game 1 through 3 Bobrovsky that shows up tonight, we could win. But I mean, we're also going up against McJesus, so we'll see what happens.
McJesus.
I decided not to go to the game. I put $2,000 on the Oilers. So
really?
So if the Cats win, I win. If the Cats lose, I still win.
Yeah.
It's what I would have spent close to on a ticket. So I figured it was better money spent, and I don't have to deal with the bullshit of going to the arena. And if we win, I will revel in it and then go to the parade.
All right. I'm pulling up my bet app after this and figuring out who I'm going to bet on. I don't know, man. It's a tough one. But Robert Griffiths writes, "Holy avocados, mate. That's an expensive burrito. Is it ever?"
Well, he was talking about Guap's breakfast burrito from the
morning. He was. My apologies. I thought he was talking about your bet. My apologies.
No. Context.
Regardless, man, this is, I know we don't like to talk about sports. We won't talk too much about sports. We'll get into a lot of the topics right now. But man, oh man, game 7. This is probably the biggest hockey game I have seen in a couple decades. It's that big.
Yeah. I mean, also good tape today. I mean, Air was up 13.5%. MSOX was up 11%.
It's great.
Goodness Growth was up 10%, but I mean, it traded $6,000 worth of stock. So, I mean, whatever. Ascend was up. Cresco was up. Glasshouse was up. True Leave was up. It's a nice day.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Stocks were up between 5 and 14%. So, I mean, I have no complaints. Maybe we've hit bottom. I mean, Twitter was popping all day today with people going nuts over the Curaleaf news and arguing over free cash flow and how 280E. It's crazy out there right now.
Yeah. Air, Ascend, Glasshouse, top performers. Cresco, not far behind. iSpire Technologies, Michael Wang, him on. Green Thumb, Terracin, Verano, as you said, Organigram, TrueLeaf, SNDL, Jazz Pharmaceuticals.
Nice green tape. Tape. And I know we're not talking about it in the headlines, but it was a big headline on Friday after we got off. There was a representative from Tampa in Florida from the Republican Party of Florida that's now backing Amendment 3.
Yeah.
So we are starting to see some Republicans mobilize within the state that are for the legalization of adult use cannabis within the state of Florida.
Yeah.
Which is good to see. We're reaching out to them to potentially get them on the show. So we should have them coming on in the next couple of weeks, a week or two.
That's great. All through your network, right, brother?
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously the network that we built through the show. And I mean, it's getting access. I'd like to get any of the Republican voices in the state to get a sensible read on what they're seeing and what they're seeing within the party. Because, I mean, I'm a registered Republican in the state of Florida. I supported Ron DeSantis boldly in the state of Florida. I mean, obviously, I don't agree with him on a couple of issues as of late. And, I mean, he's completely lost me when it comes to a couple things. So, I mean, I'd love to hear a firsthand account from someone affiliated with the Republican Party of the state of Florida to understand really what the dialogue looks like under the hood and to make sense out of what's going on with the misdirection as it relates to hemp and the synergies with cannabis. So yeah, working hard to get somebody on that can give us context into what's going on those fronts.
Huddy hates hashtags, right? And we've actually brought this up a few times. How quickly will we see other MSOs follow Curaleaf's lead on the hemp drinks? Easy money for the company, low cost and high reward. It's a very good question because it is a hot topic.
So I'm not going to name names, but I have had conversations with several CEOs of top MSOs.
Yeah,
that we could see products mimicking Select's beverages. Not very soon, but within the next couple of months, I wouldn't be surprised to see a rollout.
Yeah,
of some of those beverages.
Want to let everybody know too, we reached out once again to the Tilray team asking if Irwin Simon could be on this week. We'll keep you posted. Hopefully we can get him on because, as you said and indicated before, Anthony, what an opportunity that would be for Sweetwater Brewery. Like,
Absolutely. It's a match made in heaven.
Match made in heaven.
Yeah.
They brand themselves no THC infused beverages, but they brand it all around, obviously 420. And there's a big time event, as many of you probably know, in the state of Georgia. But it's a huge selling brand in your neck of the regions. And I can't think of a better brand that would be associated with that. So I don't know anything about this, but I'd be would you not be shocked if they're not working on something like this? Like, it just makes complete sense.
I mean, I know that I've talked bullish about Tilray's assets that they picked up in the States as it relates to craft brewers.
Yeah.
If Tilray and the folks over at Sweetwater do not have a hemp-derived beverage ready to go that just hasn't been announced and they're dialing everything in, it's a disservice to Tilray investors and for the enterprise as a whole. They have to jump on this bandwagon as it relates to Delta 9 hemp-derived beverages.
Yeah.
It is what they basically set out to do. I'm really curious to talk to Irwin, and I'm going to push him on the topic. And I think it's absolutely a category that they should be in.
Yeah. All righty. Let's jump into the wire now today. And I know there's a few things that we want to talk about. We first begin with news out of Ohio as more and more momentum is building as the Buckeye state inches closer of going live for adult use cannabis. As of today, the Ohio Division of Cannabis Control has received 235 applications from businesses hoping to either land retail permits or add to their existing portfolio, with some of the applications already being actually approved. So this is a telling sign. So it looks like all systems go for Ohio, Anthony. What do you think we can expect next as far as timeline where we can officially say this is now live?
Yeah, so I mean, as far as timeline goes, I would expect to see something come online here in the next few weeks. We need to be very clear on this. I mean, some of the applications have been approved, but they're awaiting what's called a certificate of operation from the DCC, which is the governing body as it relates to cannabis in the state of Ohio. This is the first step in that process, but the biggest hurdle to overcome was getting the original application approved. Once they get the certificate of operation, from my understanding, they're going to be able to sell adult use cannabis in the state of Ohio. And the official press release said that we should have sales within the next couple of weeks. My best guess is early to or mid to late next week to the week after, putting us in the second week of July. We're going to see sales come online in Ohio from an adult use perspective.
So you don't think before July 4th weekend?
I mean, never say never. Never say never, but I mean, I usually take more of a conservative approach to this stuff. I mean, I'd love to see it come next week. I mean, my best guess is late next week to early the week after. For Ohio to actually get sales coming through.
Ohio, writes Guap. Kind of reminds me of Drew Carey, the Drew Carey show, but that's going way back.
It's going to be a big market. I mean, it's going to be a good market. I mean, expect for everybody to talk, unless PA comes out of left field. Expect for a lot of the, I mean, it would be amazing. Unless PA comes out of left field, expect a lot of conversation and a lot of focus on Ohio moving forward, especially how the level ones are upping from the 5 to the 8 cap, how the wholesale market is progressing, and just how the overall product supply and demand economics is working out in the state. There's going to be a lot to cover on Ohio coming online.
Mr. TJ Pino, how you dope dealers? How you
I don't know what that means.
Go Bucks, writes Wilson Trades Maui. He also wrote that I think it was a burrito was $16 in Hawaii. That's not cheap.
Sounds about right.
But to your point, if we get something from Pennsylvania, we're speculating here, but once Ohio does indeed go live, you get summer recess in Washington. And I know that's all on the federal level. It's not on the state level, and things can be done still in the summertime. But do you not see a lot of things just manifesting and developing and like moving quickly come end of August, early September? And we factor in Pennsylvania, we factor in rescheduling, like the amount of momentum that you think might happen, it's your T minus 60 days till the election.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of momentum in front of us. We got a lot of things that can happen. I don't think we have a lot of things that necessarily are bound to happen. Do I think we get rescheduling on a final rule expeditiously coming out of the comment period? Yes. Do I think we get Pennsylvania to pass adult use by the end of the year? My sources that also told me about the OLC memo, as well as the Federal Register, think it's 100% slam dunk.
Well.
I think we see Pennsylvania adult use by the end of the year. Then we have the vote for Florida on November 5th. I said it this morning, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Florida adult use is kind of like the trifecta. Schedule 3 and safe banking is in the race, but I mean, would I bet on them getting done first? Probably not. I think that Schedule 3, best case, happens before the election, before the next president gets installed, and that's me saying expeditiously coming out of the comment period.
Next question you need to ask with your source is, does safe baking pass during lame duck session, as per Don Murphy kind of speculating and predicting? But man, if
they gave guidance on that, and I actually talked about that this morning. I said it a couple of weeks back. I'm done talking about safe until it happens. And I mean, I don't want to sit here and propel rhetoric about safe when I really firmly believe it's just bogged down in too much political BS to even be a point of conversation anymore.
Yeah.
And I could be just being a pessimist, but I'm so tired of talking about safe when we have so many other things that we could be talking about.
Good point. Christopher Brady, appreciate the update. 24.63 thousand comments as of right meow.
You might hit your number, by the way.
You think?
So
I won't.
We're halfway through.
I got a ways to go. What did Guap? Guap was like, I think Guap was 42 or 3,000, if I'm correct. Guap, can you comment?
I was 22,000.
I already know my number. There's no way I'm touching. It's nowhere even coming close. Mine was 78,141. We're not getting that.
42,420.
That's actually a good guess. So with you now at 22,000 and we're past that, does that mean you're now officially eliminated?
No. This is Price is Right rules. I'm good unless either of you hit your numbers.
Right. So if this is going north of 42, 43,000, then Guap's the winner. Because I picked 78, I'm done.
If it's 41,000, I still win.
All right.
So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Lots to talk about. Let's now headline. Speaking of momentum, let's keep on that. Now switch to multi-state operator Curaleaf, who announced their hemp-derived THC products. Anthony, when are these products going to be available? And will many Americans be having these come July 4th weekend?
Yeah, so they launched a website, thehempcompany.com, which will begin taking orders on June 26th. I'll be putting in an order for the full select line of beverages to try them out. They're hoping that they can start shipping July 1st to fulfill the orders for the July 4th weekend to actually have product in hand. It's pretty smart by Matt and Boris to be getting these in people's hands ahead of the July 4th weekend, where they're going to be drinking a lot. And I'm going to be curious to see whether they're drinking THC beverages. And if not, or if they are, I mean, they're about to get a hell of a lot of user-generated content on 4th of July weekend with people having THC beverages in hand. So, I mean, This is just another masterstroke by Boris with his marketing brain of his. Great move by them. Thehempcompany.com is a clean website. Right now, it's got only Curaleaf products. They did include in the press release that they are going to have certain vetted third-party products on there as well. So you can see that as becoming more so like an e-commerce site for hemp-derived products. That being said, I mean, some important points were off the bat, they're age gating, selling to adults 21 plus and over with age confirmation and age verification required upon purchase. That was one of my big beefs with Can when I purchased it. And it was one of the good things that Cantrip and Adam over there are doing the right way as far as operating in the space. Quality, like I had said last week after I spoke to Matt Darren, all of the products will be offering naturally derived cannabinoids within the beverages. From a manufacturing perspective, they're made in a CGMP facility with high standards and transparent packaging. So every can or every product is going to have a QR code for a full COA on the product. So, I mean, they're checking all the boxes. This says everything the right way. Like I said, I'm going to go purchase the products. I'll give my honest opinion of the taste, flavor, and the taste and flavoring, as well as the effectiveness. of the products, and then I'll report back. I'll be buying the beverages, though, not the gummies.
You've done your due diligence
when
here.
it comes to the products. Yeah, I mean, like I've said, I've always thought the beverage space is going to be big. I like the way that they're branding this Select Zero Proof. It looks like a alcoholic seltzer. It's branded very well. As far as price goes, they're pretty much price aligned with all of their competitors. It's $49.99 for an 8-pack. And I mean, I'm very, very curious to see how this propels Curaleaf getting their branding outside of the dispensary. They mentioned in the press release that they're working with retail and they're working with distribution to make sure that they can get this in as many hands of the consumers as possible.
How would you, and I know they're completely different tastes, but it's just like, you know how like some people, hot day, like to have ice cold beer, that type of thing. When you look at some of these hemp derived products, like in the actual taste, flavor, that sort of thing, like how good are these products? Because that's always been, I guess, a lot of questions is the consistency and the overall taste during the early stages. What's your feedback?
So I'm not gonna age you on purpose, but ice cold beer doesn't really hack it anymore for anybody that's under like
I hear you.
35. Me personally, I hate beer. I don't drink beer. I don't touch it at all. I mean, I know we had a beer when I was in Canada last week, but that was like maybe the first beer I've had in like 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
If I'm going on a boat or if I'm like doing something outdoors, give me the hemp seltzers, give me the cannabis drinks. I'd much rather be drinking them than a White Claw or than definitely more than a White Claw.
Yeah.
More than an alcoholic seltzer or a beer. High Noon, I would argue that I enjoy High Noon. I mean, it's actual alcohol. I mean, it still is a little bit sugary, but I would mix in probably both of them. But I do see this category as getting very, very big very quickly.
Well, look at the
and
trend.
I can guarantee you that you are going to see a lot of user-generated content with those select cans if they hit their shipping date, putting product in people's hands on July 4th.
Bet Shad rolls a mean joint. I will say this though. I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you went from beer to craft beer to basically seltzers, and it's definitely a trend that's changing so much. But yeah, I think ultimately at the end of the day, and again, when you're consuming a lot of this stuff like the next day, not nearly as like having a hangover, dehydration, like is it completely different, you find?
Completely. Completely. I mean, I can go out. I only drink tequila soda. I mean, for some reason, it doesn't give me a hangover, and I can just pound them.
Yeah.
If I go out and drink whiskey or if I drink vodka, I'm hungover the next day.
Yeah.
I mean, I consume cannabis. I wake up in the morning feeling fine, whether it's inhaled, whether it's drank, whether it's an edible. There is no hangover and there is no like wrecking of my morning for the first couple hours of being awake. I mean, as I've gotten older, hangovers have gotten worse. I'm sure everybody shares that same sentiment. Don't get me wrong. Like I enjoy drinking, I enjoy partying, but I don't enjoy doing it, sacrificing the day after. To me, that's a thing of the past.
I think people are encouraging me to try a joint here today. Get Shad in. Let's roll a bumper. All right. 17 years sober, people. So that's why I'm a little out on the fringe when it comes to being aware of some of these products. But it's all about business. And speaking of business, I will say that they announced a partnership too with DoorDash. So that's encouraging to say the least. Go ahead.
Yeah. So people saw that in the press release, and then I kind of researched it. From my understanding, you can get Cantrip, you can get Can, you can get a bunch of the other hemp beverages via DoorDash right now, because I think they do delivery through Total Wine. So if you're buying anything from Total Wine, whether it's THC or alcohol derived, it's coming through DoorDash. But yes, I did have like that aha moment when I saw it, and I was like, oh, DoorDash, that's awesome. As far as the point of distribution and really getting the product in people's hands. But it's also kind of standard for beverages that are being carried in those outlets.
War Dog, Zach, appreciate the feedback. Yes, full on sober, not even California sober. Had to make a few changes in my life, but here we are 17 years later. So get your fireworks, your ribeye steaks, and your hemp-derived THC products ready for July 4th weekend is the big takeaway here, right?
Yeah. I will, if I can, I'm telling you, if I can have them, I'll actually be in Canada. I'll be in Canada for July 4th. So I actually won't in Vancouver.
Oh, that's right. You told me that last week.
Yeah, going up to the Okanagan for a week.
That'll be a blast. Stay away from construction zone Toronto. Man, oh man, that was crazy. Great city, but holy cow, a lot of construction.
Yeah, if the Oilers win tonight, I might have to shoot over to Edmonton, steal the cup, and bring it back.
$2,000 replica Stanley Cups are going on sale right now online. Would you spend $2,000 on a replica?
Well, my wife would kick my ass if I had a replica Stanley Cup show up at the house.
That'd be
I
sick.
have a bunch of movie props in my office, like a lightsaber and an infinity gauntlet and a bunch of other things that she's already dying to get out of the house. So if I get a replica Stanley Cup, I better be drinking out of it, or there's going to be problems.
Good stuff, Mark Landers. Good for you, my friend. All right, let's now move out west. There's some concerning numbers and trends that's going on here. There's a lot of companies right now that are losing a lot of money, and I want to highlight some of them. Operator Lowell Farms, they're losing, and I mean losing a lot of money based on their first quarter results. As much as $3 million has been lost, another $13 million from the previous quarter. So what is going on here in California? Because there's a long list of companies that are announcing some pretty staggering numbers here in the early stages of 2024.
Yeah, so I mean, this was an original story on Green Market Report by Johnny Clickbait, my boy on Twitter. John Schroyer. It's a joke. It's not me taking a jab at him. He knows it's a joke. But I mean, I was surprised to read this. So Lowell Farms lost $3 million in the first quarter of the year, and nearly $13 million in the quarter before that. State House, which has asked the Canadian regulators for a cease trade order regarding its shares on the CSE, hasn't even reported its fourth quarter 2023 financials yet. In the third quarter last year, State House lost $17 million and had almost $300 million in total liabilities. I mean, I don't even want to say what I think the future is for that. Ease is facing foreclosure after defaulting on a $37 million loan. Gold Flora, or Graham, has lost nearly $14 million in the first quarter of the year after posting a $42.7 million loss for the 2023 calendar year. The company has also nearly $250 million in total liabilities. Weed Maps, the parent company of the popular dispensary finder Weed Maps, obviously, last year alone lost $15.7 million. And its dispensary and cannabis brand consumer base is steadily contracting in California as it shrank. They're going through super growth problems as Google and Yelp becomes more cannabis friendly. And then Glass House, which is obviously one of the largest producers in California, they are funded. They do have a decent amount of revenue, but they've been reporting net losses quarter after quarter, including a $18.3 million loss in the first quarter of this year and a $97.4 million loss in total for the year prior. Those are some pretty scary numbers, all things considered.
And a lot of names.
Because it's weird that this article came out, because I actually had this conversation with someone on Saturday. Talking about the state of California. I mean, we say it's a $5 billion market or more. We say it's a $5 billion market. And my argument was, well, there has to be some companies that are there that are making money, because who's selling the actual consumer's cannabis? That being said, the analysis that John gave in the article and the facts that I just read, they don't calculate in taking away 280E via rescheduling. That could have some upwards lift
for
on
sure.
The fundamentals. Now, the companies that are upside down as far as debt goes and just floundering, 280E is not going to save them. A company like Glass House, 280 is going to help them. I think they're going to be able to weather the storm, and they could be sitting as the sole beneficiary of a lot of the California market as it comes out of this. But I mean, it's sad to see. I mean, you have to kind of question whether it's mismanagement at these firms, whether they just grossly overplayed their hand, or I mean, what's going on. But I mean, the losses that are stacking up for the names that I just mentioned are staggering. And I mean, a company like Lowell, from my understanding, they had the #1 pre-roll in California for a very long time. I mean, that's selling millions and millions of units on an annualized basis in what is one of the largest cannabis markets in the world. Like, if you can't make money, how did you grossly mismanage the enterprise?
Yeah.
The other ones, I don't know the intricacies of their businesses that well, being State House and Graham, as those are two companies that I don't really pay attention to. But if we're talking about losses, I mean, the losses and the liabilities are staggering over there.
Reach out to Matt Hawkins regarding State House. Need to get him on relatively soon too. All right. Rest in peace, the parent company, the worst name for a cannabis company ever, writes Guap.
Oh, Guap is being facetious.
Oh yeah.
The parent company was an absolute disaster.
Yeah. I love the other one. What the fuck is Anthony talking about? The parent company is consolidating and dominating California with Jay-Z and Rock Nation.
Yeah, the Jay-Z and Rock Nation parent company was about as good as the Diddy deal in the Northeast that ever materialized.
Celebrities
So
and cannabis brands, it's just never was, other than Snoop Dogg. It's just not a trend that's ever taken place. By the way,
celebrity weed.
we ran into Bruce Linton last week in Toronto. Man, that guy is incredible. Some of the stories that he tells.
I wish I could say the conversation. I wish I could literally talk about the
It was
conversation I had with
amazing.
Bruce. It was immensely insightful. I mean, he
Yeah.
told me a lot of things on the M&A front, companies that he was looking or had at the table to purchase. But like the sources that I've broke some news from, I mean, that stuff will never see the light of day, even though it would be a lot of entertainment for a lot of
It
people.
would be. I will shed something, though. He did say that probably the smartest business person he's ever met in his life is Martha Stewart.
I love Martha Stewart.
When she came up to Smith Falls, it's like he gave her one quick walkthrough of the actual facility before it was all done. Not from a decorator eye standpoint, but she was just talking about rearranging. This should be over here. This should be over here to make the business a lot more efficient. And I was all just through one run, a walkthrough. But yeah, it was that was one of the best branding strategies that she ever did, by hooking up with Snoop Dogg, and just, totally made her not just Martha Stewart, the home decorator or cooker, like, at 75 years old, she's hip. And now
Everybody loves Martha.
Smart
Everybody
business
loves
lady.
Martha. Also, Fred, I don't know right now if Jason and Ziad are working on beverages.
Yeah.
I can reach out to Jason to get comment. So I will reach out to both of them actually and see what they say.
Wilson trades Maui. Yes. Snoop, he's got some great Corona commercials. That's for sure. Imagine what he'll do for cannabis beverages. It's a good point. Dylan Rogers, haven't seen you in a while, but great to have you back, my friend. Good to see you and hope you're well. Podcast would be the same without you chiming in with some comments. But anyway, everybody out there, Robert Griffiths, Zach, Christopher Brady, a lot of you people out there that are consistently on here. We always appreciate the support each and every time. And good for you to obviously mention about this original story about California. It came from the Green Market Report. It's all about supporting each other and different media companies in this space, and I'll leave it at that. So that wraps up Into the Wire. It's now time for our next segment. It's Mondays. Cue the music up, Ahrens, and here we go. Roll it on with Dan Ahrens. What's going on, my friend? Happy Monday. How are things?
I'm doing all right. I've been had a lot of work to do, so I've been multitasking while listening to your great chat.
Well, I appreciate you chiming in here again on a Monday as usual, and lots to, I guess, talk about. It's been a couple weeks since you've been on, and interesting takes to say the least. But Dan Ahrens here on a TDR Trade Black podcast Monday from the non-paying client advisor shares. Great to see you.
It sounds funny to have to tell the trolls, no, I don't pay to be on here, but we love you guys.
Yeah, I know. We enjoy having you on. It's always good conversation.
We want to support everything you guys do, but it's somehow wrong to pay you guys. You're not a charity organization.
Yeah, I will say that. But we paste that obviously all over everything. But in fairness, some of the people out there, yes, we'll tweak the disclosure. But yes, we don't want to be pumping, but making it very clear that you are not a paying client. You are non-paid. And if you were, we would disclose that verbally in this podcast. So
of course
you were.
I'm here to educate, though.
Let's educate. Let's educate. Monday, educate us. Who's winning Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals?
Oh, man.
Nah. We can pass on that. I do want to bring up, though, it's debate week between Trump and Biden. A lot of stuff being discussed. I'm sure, obviously, inflation, job creation, just the overall cost of living amongst Americans is going to be front and center. Do you think there's any chance at all that the topic of cannabis gets brought up in that debate?
Well, if you say it that way, any chance, yeah, I'm saying there's a chance. But I don't think so. I think there's so many other topics to discuss. The border. One guy's going to be saying that he's helping the economy and creating jobs. And one guy's going to be saying that the economy sucks and inflation's terrible. And it's going to be an interesting debate. But
you saw they're shutting off the mics, right? If you're not, if you're not speaking, they're literally shutting off the mics. No no crowd.
Yeah, which is
And
really
there's
dumb.
commercial.
It's really
It's
dumb not to
stupid.
have it with a crowd.
Gotta have a crowd.
It might be smart to shut off the mics for these guys. They're both angry old men.
So that I was listening this morning that shutting off the mics actually is better for Trump because people realized he was a maniac when he kept talking over everybody
Good point.
and just reeling through everyone. So now if they shut him off, he's not going to have that shock factor. That's sitting on the stage. But I mean, Happy Burner actually brings up a pretty good point.
He does.
We were all saying that there was going to be no mention of cannabis at the State of the Union address, and Biden dropped it on us at the State of Union address. I really do think if they want to drop like an incendiary topic that both of them have very opposing views on, apparently, just ask about cannabis. Especially because Biden was tweeting about it over the weekend, that he made a promise, he wants to stay true to it, and like that cannabis it's floating to the top, not floating to the top, but it's surfacing again as far as his rhetoric goes.
Yeah, that little subject of his tweet over the weekend, not that Joe Biden actually had anything to do with it, but his handlers.
Which tweet are you referring to? Which one was it?
Oh, it wasn't from the Joe Biden, it was from POTUS Twitter or X. And it just rehashed, I made a promise and asked the HHS and DEA. It was just kind of was it actually a retweet or
No, it was a tweet. It was a tweet by Biden. I'm pretty sure.
It was just re-emphasizing the same stuff though, Shad. But it was it got a lot of attention because it was from the president and it was mentioning the rescheduling yet again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're getting a couple of questions here. What's the cat's name, and can you bring it back before you wrap up the podcast? So,
well, it was swatting at my earpiece because I'm wearing this Plantronic thing today.
What's the cat's name?
The cat's name is
Dallas.
Its legal name is Oreo. That's what the SPCA said its name is. But around here we just call it Kitty. So
Anthony, where's Virgil?
Virgil hates me. So, I mean, as much as I love the cat, it's just an animal that lives in my house. He comes and goes as he pleases, and he would never actually come up to me and show a display of affection like that cat just did. Virgil is just rogue living in my house.
Oh, man. Sounds like the owner. Just always pissed off and walks around, right?
Great technology here, but this is the cat cuddling dog underneath my desk.
Oh, that's funny. That is funny. All right, let's look at some of the ETF action and going on. Last week, you guys bought 2 million shares of Grown Rogue, and they probably mailed that T-shirt to you. But
well, I already had the T-shirt, but I thought I'd wear it today. So in MSOs,
full transparency, by the way, too. Grown Rogue is not a client of ours, but go ahead, Dan.
We had a good foothold in Grown Rogue. We've always liked those guys, said good things about them.
Yeah,
and it's in the position I'm in managing this fund. Sometimes I get nice opportunities, and somebody out there wanted to move a large amount of shares of Grown Rogue. I was more than happy to buy a good amount of Grown Rogue rather than see somebody out there, selling the heck out of a stock that everybody thinks highly of.
Yeah.
So we agreed to set a price, meet in the middle. When I buy something, I want to pay as little as possible. When you're selling something, you want to sell it for as much as possible. Yeah. We found a happy price, and it's good for everybody because I didn't want to move the stock that day, its price, I mean, but I think highly of it for the future. So we bought it at a good price.
Yeah. Any insight to the tape today? I mean, we got MSOX double digit green day, which was nice to end the session.
Well, it's a really nice day out there. It was. And I've always been a believer in two things. Having the biggest weights in the fund on the largest of the tier ones. We obviously love GTI an awful lot. I loved everything you were saying, Anthony, about Curaleaf today and the beverages. I'm only surprised the number of the MSOs didn't do it earlier, but I think it's a result of federal reform dragging out. And the farm bill, people were worried that this loophole of hemp was going to get closed. But once again, our politicians just play politicians game, can't decide on a damn thing.
I know.
And the hemp business continues. So cheers to Boris making a good move.
But what'd you think of the point we were making earlier, just about Tilray? Like, it just with their Sweetwater brand in the Southeast, and like, are you surprised that they haven't announced or involved in this like hemp derived product sort of arena yet? Knowing that they already have a kind of a household name branded around that lifestyle right now.
I don't know. We digress a little bit here, but I don't think too much about Tilray, except I don't like. I don't either.
Make. Yeah, I mean, they're always an afterthought.
For the last 3 years, all Irwin Simon's been talking about is federal reform in the United States, and when that happens, they're scratching and clawing to get into the United States.
Yeah.
Would it have been smart of them to do the, I don't know, the Band-Aid approach of getting into hemp-derived beverages? Probably. So maybe he screwed up. So, but to answer the question, though, is I like having the fund in the big tier ones, but I also like the bottom half of the portfolio having exposure to MariMed and Grown Rogue. And those things, they're not a big part of the portfolio, but they can add juice to the portfolio. They can add upside. Look at, C21. That's a great company. It's cash flow positive.
Yeah.
Most people don't care about it, but our fund owns things like that. Some of the other little competitor funds don't own things like that. It's almost like a barbell approach. I think they have very little downside, but they offer some real sweet upside. And that's why we like Grown Rogue. And when you see a day like today, maybe Grown Rogue has a little bit more ability to go up 15% in a day.
The pot is boiling even on days or weeks with no volume, because as soon as you see a little bit of green, there's excitement back instantly.
I mean, the price action, the price action was up today, but at the same time, like, if you want to dollar weight these, I mean, it was kind of muted. I mean, for instance, Ascend, which is a position that I hold, I mean, they traded $60,000.
I know,
worth of stock. Air traded $150,000 worth of stock. Cresco actually traded $600,000 worth of stock.
But as you say that, Anthony, the fund owns 1.8 million of Ascend. So that whole 8.1 million went up 8.17%.
Right.
Yeah. So, trust me, I'm happy. I'm happy. I mean, I've been building a position in it at $1.90, and I mean, they're going to move.
Yeah, too many people cry about low volumes on red days, but hey, we have a really nice positive move up today. Pretty low volume still, though. Pretty low volume.
What I'm waiting to see is follow through. We had a nice green day, I think, last week, and then we had a red day follow, and then we got a nice green day today. Let's see if we get follow through. And I mean, obviously, I don't want to get all tinfoil hat. It's odd that the tape for cannabis is green when crypto is cruising to the downside.
And
Nvidia is cruising to the downside.
I mean, go ahead, Chad.
I offer no predictions on tomorrow, so I just take them as they come.
Yeah. Well, here we are, almost the end of June. Where does time go as we head into July with Ohio about to go live? Hey, listen, this is the TDR Trade Black podcast. Anthony Varrell, sdales, along with Dan Ahrens from Advisor Shares on AMA. Any questions that you want to ask Dan, please leave it in the comment section right now. What were you going to say?
That's a good question by Sonic.
Let me scroll down here. Question for Dan. When uplisting becomes possible, do all the holdings of MSOs have to uplist before MSOs can uplist, or does that work technically?
Maybe a little misunderstanding. So MSOs, the fund, is listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And that's why a lot of people can invest in our fund that might not be able to invest in your average OTC plant touching cannabis. Some people can, don't get me wrong. Depends on who your brokerage firm is, depends on who your bank is. But the fund itself, MSOs and MSOX and YOLO are all listed on the New York Stock Exchange. New York Stock Exchange was a very good partner to us, by the way. They worked really hard on our fund listing and all the approvals. So, no, we've already had Curaleaf and TerraSend list on the Toronto. And a lot of people don't know this. The way a lot of the non-permissible cannabis lists work at a lot of brokerage firms and banks, New York Stock Exchange listed is allowed, NASDAQ listed allowed, Toronto listed is allowed. And that's kind of, and we as a fund are therefore, through Bank of New York Mellon, allowed to own those stocks. So when uplisting comes around, it's not going to be everything at once. It's going to be a couple of companies that have all their ducks in a row ready for it. They're going to get uplisted. Then a week or a month later, we're going to see a couple more. And then a week or a month later, we're going to see more. It's going to be a process. And then our fund will be buying those stocks as soon as possible directly. Actually, we'll be working with our swap counterparty that already owns those stocks. And we'll convert it into
I was just going to say,
that's
we've
interesting.
already done that.
I think the right question is if and when uplisting becomes available and all of the components of MSOS uplist, does that completely phase out the swap structure?
That is a great question, Anthony.
Great question.
And the answer is no. Under current 1940 Act investment company rules and concentration and internal revenue code and everything else that we're monitoring constantly as we manage ETFs, if we have a fund that's super concentrated, I mean, it's really top heavy, or if anybody's ever seen any of these funds out there that might be a single stock, or there's or a fund that only owns, 5 or 6 or 10 companies. You can't do that under the 1940 Act. You can't do that in a regular mutual fund or ETF. So if we want to be very heavy in GTI and Curaleaf and TerraSend and Trueleaf and Cresco, we're going to own a lot of it direct and custody it at the bank, and we're going to own a whole bunch of them via total return swap still.
Okay.
Guap actually writes a good question. Here's a fun bet. Which MSL will be the first to uplist? If I was a betting person, I think why would you look past TerraSend, knowing what they did at the TSX? No?
Curaleaf.
You think Curaleaf, huh?
My bet's Curaleaf is the first uplist.
There's some companies out there, Canopy, it's duly listed on Toronto as well as listed on the NASDAQ. That's expensive, though. Village Farms used to be, and they went ahead and dropped the Toronto and stuck with NASDAQ.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I wouldn't think that TerraSend or maybe even Curaleaf would be a first mover there. They're already on the Toronto. So it might be GTI, Verano, could be Cresco. It's going to be one of the big ones. And but I don't know where those companies really stand on those matters. I know they've had conversations. But Anthony, you very well might be correct, because I know for a fact that Boris and Camilo have had conversations with the U.S. exchanges.
That's why. I mean, I'd be willing to bet that they've already got the file ready to go. It's as soon as they get the green light, it's like, gentlemen, here you go. Get us uplisted. We're off to the races.
Well,
but just going off that criteria and the structure that TerraSend and Curaleaf both had to do to list on the Toronto Stock Exchange, you might see Curaleaf and TerraSend do it simultaneously.
That's what I was thinking.
But I'd be willing to bet. So Shad and I probably will both be right. But I would bet, if we're going to say single name, Curaleaf's probably the first to do it.
One thing to point out too is that, when I did speak to Jason last year when listing on the TSX, these are conversations that began in 2017. So as far as having that file ready to go, those files are definitely ready to go. But we brought up Curaleaf, we brought up TerraSend, but then you bring up obviously CUSA with David. What was another one? With Canopy USA.
But CUSA is technically not an uplist because Canopy's already listed. They're just consolidating. So, I mean, sure, yes, the American assets now get the consolidation simultaneously, which you could call an uplist.
Kim's got a wild card as well. But to your point, Dan, there's going to be a lot of companies that will move and move fast. Speaking of like, just with you and the NYSE and the relationships that you have, do you think there's anybody that you could get on with us on a podcast just to talk about their stance with cannabis and what they need to see, like, with some of the safe harbor language in the event that we do see some movement with safe? But I'd love to get sort of some takes and some feedback from them as to what they're and how they're viewing a lot of this stuff, if possible.
Yeah, let me ask. And I do have, very strong relationships there. We've done plenty of bell rings, everything else. But the ETF team is separated arm's length from the individual stock listing team.
Yeah.
Different criteria, different teams. I can ask my folks. I also want to point out to everybody listening, this isn't like pressing a button, anybody. There's nothing automatic. Yeah. It's not like, even filling out a driver's license or a passport application. It's a process, and there's a lot of work and a lot of steps. And
well, how many companies are in your ETF? How many companies how many holdings are in your ETF MSOS?
25, 30.
So when you think
of add them up.
So those 25 or 30, talk about that bottom half, which is like, very strong positioning and good for, dependent as far as the growth of the industry, in addition to the top bigger players. But do you think that'll be spread out? When you say it's not going to happen all at once, you just press a button, but is this going to be spread out where a lot of these companies that say those 25 will happen over a course of a year or longer?
Yeah, I do. And the reason is, I'm looking at the fund right now. It's a $930 million fund. And we only own 2.8 million of Grown Rogue. We only own 3 million of Goodness, 1.8 million of Ascend, less than 1 million of Schwaz and MariMed.
Right.
So those companies, while I think they have some really nice upside from current prices, they're tiny companies.
Yeah.
They are, they might get acquired. They might merge with somebody. I don't see them having the size and the prices. Come on, MariMed's at, under 20 cents. Do we think they're a good company? Yeah. Do I think they have a nice upside? Yeah. Do I think they're a candidate to get listed on NASDAQ or NYSE? No.
Yeah.
No. So that's the important thing to understand.
Check out our other YouTube channel as well. We just actually did a stock analysis on the stock of MariMed. We posted Saturday, actually. So if you get a chance, make sure to look at that for any of you MariMed investors. Quick full transparency as well. MariMed is a client of ours, but we 100%.
Nice disclosure.
You like that? Yes, 100%. We give a good stock analysis from our analyst and lead financial writer, Bill McNarland. Your good friend, Noah Hammond, actually writes, the recent downward pressure on prices have been on low volume as well. That's a very good point. Very good point.
The volume has been so anemic since we got into the comment period. It's like the ultimate period of uncertainty.
Yeah.
The volume just dried up. I watch it every day like a hawk.
Yeah, and there's not a damn thing I can do about it either.
No,
I really like. I'm really enjoying today's prices, but I didn't do it. And the downward days, not a darn thing I can do about it either.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people got smart. I mean, people didn't want to hold in the comment period, and I mean, I think people just rotated elsewhere, and they're waiting until we get out, and they'll be back. But I mean, that capital's not. Who wanted to sit all summer in these names? I didn't want to take the risk. I mean, I'm still in 2 of my core positions, but that's it.
All right. Oh, Ianthus. We don't bring them up too much, but New York, Illinois, Maryland, Arizona, Jersey, Florida, and Maryland.
The corpse of Ianthus is in some good locations. That's about all I can say.
I don't even know how many of those assets they actually own, or how many in receivership, or their debtors. Yeah, Ianthus. There's so many other companies in the cannabis industry that you can get potentially high upside on versus owning Ianthus.
Hey, I own a few stock in this fund that we bought a couple of years ago that are now, for the most part, not tradable. And
Robert writes,
Ianthus we don't own. it's pretty much untradeable, guys.
Yeah.
Hadley Ford. There's a name. Where is he now?
Yeah. VFF's in YOLO, correct?
Yeah, it's one of the top 3 holdings. We think the world of Village Farms. It's right near the top of the fund, which is why I got to point this out. YOLO has outperformed the S&P 500 over the past year and year to date. And it gets a lot of that performance, not only from its holding in MSOs, but Village Farms, High Tide, and Cardiol. And that right there is the reason to have an actively managed fund. We're not very active. It's just not an index. Owning those stocks are the reasons it's outperforming.
And I can attest that the Pure Sun Farms flower was very good quality that I got in Toronto last week. And all of the bud tenders were talking about how much of the VFF portfolio that they do sell at retail.
Glop writes, Dan is talking about YOLO a lot recently. Does he run that ETF or something?
Disclosure. They are a client. I'm a client. I manage YOLO. Thanks, Guap.
Yeah.
Love Guap. All right. So sold some MSOs, but bought more Cardiol, you said last week. Also bought some SNDL and Chronos, you said, correct?
Yeah. I'm a big believer in the fund MSOs, and I'm a big believer in the fund YOLO. People should own both of them, and they're different animals.
Yep.
So YOLO owns a big chunk of MSOs. And for those that haven't heard me say this enough times, we waived the fees, so we're not double dipping on it. And I sold some MSOs on one of those good green days where it was nice to sell it. We sold off some profit and repositioned it into Cardiol, which was a little bit beat up last week after being a huge performer for the past year.
Yep.
Today it was up about 8%. So nice. YOLO is a global strategy. And MSOs is a US only strategy.
Right.
And they do overlap, but I don't want them to overlap too much. Simple as that.
Well, all in all, it's always good to catch up with you and get a quick update. I know you weren't on last week, but we'll try to do these every single week. If not, I know summer gets a little bit tricky for all of us, but things are going to happen in a hurry. Just when you think
so.
Remember that August 2018 summer day when Constellation broke the news? I just think that this is, I was saying to Anthony earlier, start to see Ohio go live, get some of the results and numbers early on within the first 6 weeks. We see how that's performing. And who knows, maybe we get something out of left field where Pennsylvania gets the green light, and then it's just full on into the fall season heading into the election, which, Richard Wagner writes, this summer will be better off with all the catalysts coming up. And I can't help but
think they're all coming. I almost agreed with everything Anthony was saying in the first half of the show. Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, safe banking that we don't want to talk about anymore.
It's Voldemort.
I fully agree.
Safe banking is Voldemort.
Yeah.
We have a lot of catalysts coming. It's funny, I didn't do the show last week, and I didn't think we had a whole lot to talk about. And then suddenly, or maybe we're all in better moods, but suddenly it seemed like there was a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, okay. Ohio coming online's big. I mean, we're probably gonna beat Ohio like a dead horse here in the coming weeks. But it's just gonna be who's turning on, who's growing, what revenue is coming out. It's
Okay, before I let you go, and do you want to get as many questions out to you as possible? Dylan Rogers writes, what percentage of the 20 to 25 MSO swaps are already IPO'd or with OTC? Does that mean none of them are? Sorry, dumb question, I am sure, but no question is dumb. Does that make sense?
I'm going to try to understand it all. So every company that we own in the fund is listed on an exchange. It's just most of the time they're listed on the CSE in Canada. Sometimes what used to be called the NEO, now it's called the CBOE in Toronto. Plus Curaleaf and TerraSend are listed on the TSX. And then, as happens with any Canadian stock, pretty much, don't hold me to that, they trade OTC in the US. You add a F to the ticker. It's a 5-letter F share. That's an OTC traded stock, but they're listed in the on the Canadian exchange. Although is MariMed and Ascend,
they're both OTC.
So
yeah,
they're traded OTC in the U.S. I'm not sure if they're listed on one of on the little Canadian exchanges. So yeah, that's what OTC in the U.S. means. Typically for these plant-touching cannabis companies in the U.S., again, listed on secondary exchange in Canada, traded OTC in the U.S. And that's it. We trade the U.S. line, the U.S. denominated line for our swaps.
Yeah.
Because it's funny when we have a U.S. holiday, we get to see what the Canadian exchanges do with these U.S. cannabis stocks, and the trading is even more.
Well, time flies.
More questions.
We will be in November in no time.
Also, Rob, yes, the cannabis is a client. We've mentioned it several times. It's on all the videos and all the content on our site. So in the act of good faith, answering all of your questions, yes, they are a client of ours.
Yeah.
Jesse and David are definitely good friends of ours.
Yeah. And I really encourage people, even with some of our clients, look closely and listen closely to these podcasts. The whole reason why we launched this platform was to properly produce content in a journalistic way. We can't be pumping content. We need to basically have a very balanced look at these industries. Most importantly, have people like you feed us questions that you want us to answer, which we always say that is the goal. And ultimately, it's just to stay informed and educated. So yes, we're trying to make a living here too. But the most important thing is making sure that we have a lot of information that is not swaying one way or another. And we will cover as many companies in the space, paid or not, to make sure that we're providing and shedding a light on an industry that we believe has tremendous upside. So
yeah,
hope that helps and makes sense.
And I mean, also, if anybody ever has any questions regarding the platform, regarding anything that you see, shoot us a DM on Twitter, shoot me a DM on my personal account, shoot us a message on the TDR account. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions any of you ever have.
Yeah.
We don't have anything to hide.
And hey, we don't have to be on the show. We appreciate you guys because you're honest, straightforward, put out good information, good education. There's a lot of people in this cannabis space, especially from back in 2016, 17, 18. They had a lot of the crazy Twitter handles and websites that had, weed green 420 street, whatever. Those were straight pumpers, people. Straight pumpers. They didn't grow product. They didn't sell product. They didn't manage funds with product. There's a lot of people that have certain Twitter handles and websites that were straight pumpers, and most people didn't know they were straight pumpers.
Well, it's not normal.
Sdales is not that.
Yeah, well, appreciate that, Dan. And I will say, it's not normal. I remember putting in some money. I never really followed the market all that much, but where I got hooked, I put in like 50 grand into one or two companies. And when I looked 8 weeks later, that 50 grand was like $500,000. But I wish I would have done what Anthony did and probably sold. But, that's just the reality. I didn't sell. I didn't make any money off of it. But it's just, that's not normal for something to move that quickly. And I think in a lot of fairness to people out there, which is why they have concerns, is like I said, the early stages of this industry, and why I left the mainstream media world, because I'm like, this has got huge upside potential. And most importantly, it needs to be told the right way. So I hope they're doing that. And by all means, we definitely have an open mind to have any constructive feedback. And we're always here to listen to what some of you guys have to say. So to answer your questions, we are listening, and we'll make the appropriate changes. But hope that helps clear up some air. But most importantly, we appreciate everybody that continues to follow us and support us.
Thanks, everybody. I got to run.
Definitely.
All right, Dan.
I got to go meditate before this Panthers game.
Good luck, brother. Leave some comments below. Let us know feedback from today's show. And most importantly, appreciate everybody for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our Baked In newsletter. Lots of research reports that we have, the top MSOs. So if you want to have access to that information, make sure to click the link lower right-hand corner, or within the description of this YouTube channel. Just click on the link or log on to thedalesreport.com. And we very much appreciate you subscribing. Anthony, good luck tonight, my friend. Either way, you're winning.
I'm not ready for this game.
Did you play the straight money? Did you play money line or spread?
Money line.
Money line.
Fuck the spread. Money line.
Spread this.
Dude, I remember in 1996 when we got waxed by the Colorado Avalanche. Like, I thought this was redemption.
You think the Rats will be out tonight if you win?
I hope so. I can't stomach the loss.
Well, either way, it's like I said, probably the biggest hockey game I've seen. I grew up big hockey fan, big Detroit Red Wings fan, but
I mean, these are professional athletes. I played sports up until I went to college. Game 7, home ice, Stanley Cup Finals. I'm assuming everybody that's on the Panthers, this is what they live for.
Yeah.
Let's get it done, boys, and win the damn Stanley Cup.
Well, my town that I'm in right now, it's like there's actually all Panthers fans because we have Montour and Ekblad next door, about both towns where they grew up. So they're like, if they win, their cup is obviously coming to this area. So I can't help. Regardless of whether you're Canadian or American, if you're down 3-0, you want to see a taste of history. So I'm sorry, my friend. I'm going for the Oilers. I want to see the comeback. Sorry, Brett. Sorry, bud.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. 8 o'clock.
All right, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. If you're watching the game tonight, enjoy it. Leave comments below. Let us know your thoughts. What do you think of how the summer will perform? Let us know. Appreciate all the feedback and support. We'll see you Wednesday in the live stream.
Al Gore for president.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching our latest podcast. Lots of momentum building. You guys getting all excited? Leave comments below. Again, we want to take this viral. Smash that like button and make sure to click on that bell for all notifications as we start to bring on bigger and bigger guests. Don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, the Baked In newsletter, by logging on to thedalesreport.com. And we want to take this viral, as I said, and make this community grow. So make sure to subscribe on that channel because we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks again, everyone, for watching.